This story is about Ugron's playground. Ugron, the monster fairy, wasn't very good at thinking, but once in a while he had a great idea, and his latest one concerned the fairy children. Ugron thought they ought to have a safe adventure playground of their own, and it was surely the guardian's job to make it for them. He didn't know much about children, but he knew a fairy that did, so he called her. She soon flew over in her green and yellow dress, wearing her white floppy hat and carrying her blue box of medicines. Ugron said, I've had a sort of idea, Willow. It's not a very good one yet, so I need somebody clever like you. Willow blushed prettily. Well, I'm not as clever as all that, Ugron, but I'll do my best. What's the problem? Ugron explained that he wanted to build a safe adventure playground for the little ones, and Willow thought that was an excellent idea. You're a very thoughtful monster, Ugron, she said. And then she began to think. Well, the first thing we have to decide is where to put it. It has to be somewhere warm and dry, and it would be a good idea if there was a door that we could close. Is there anywhere like that in the castle? Well, there's my dungeon, Willow. That's right, Ugron, but I think your dungeon is a bit dark. Some of the little ones might be scared. Is there anywhere else? Ugron scratched his furry head. We could ask Lucian. He knows the castle better than I do. So they went to see Lucian the unicorn. He thought for a while, then he said, I can't think of anywhere inside the castle, but there is one place that might work. How about the old stables? Willow frowned. But you and Ugron live there. No, not our nice new home. I mean the old stables, where Ugron and I used to play when we were little. Nobody uses them now. Ugron said, Well, that's a brilliant idea, Lucian. Let's go and see. Lucian led them to a long, low building set against an outside wall of the castle. It was much taller than Lucian, with wide double doors and a sloping roof. Ugron examined it carefully. I think it's big enough, but it's full of hay bales and not much else. Willow said, But that's a good start, Ugron. Hay bales are great for jumping on and off, or hiding behind, and we could even build a little maze for the children to fly around. Lucian said, How about making a fort so that they can play soldiers? Willow thought that was a good idea too. And if we made it so the floor was always covered with hay, no one will get hurt even if they fall. Lucian frowned. There's a problem, though. None of us knows how to make things like that. Ugron said, Well, but Mr. Magus could do it just by waving his magic wand. But Willow wasn't too sure. Now, that kind of magic can wear off, you know. I wouldn't want everything to disappear suddenly with the children climbing all over it. Well, Lucian said, if we have to do it ourselves, I won't be much use. My hooves aren't good for making things. Ugron shook his shaggy head too. Well, I'm quite strong, but I don't know how to put things together. Willow said, I have some books that show you how to make things, but I would need someone cleverer than me to help. Lucian said, There's only one thing for it, then. We shall have to ask Miss Rowan. Is she any good at making things? Willow said, She certainly is, and I'm sure she'd help with Ugron's idea. So that night, when Rowan was in bed, they came to ask her advice. Rowan loved the idea of an adventure playground, but she knew it couldn't be like the one she knew. Who would want to climb ladders or swing from ropes or ride zip wires when they could fly? So, what would be fun and exciting for fairy children? She worked out a few ideas and then called all her tree fairies together. Willow, can you find some bendy branches about twice as tall as you and as thick as your arm? Holly, will you and Rose find us a few prickly branches, but please take all the sharp points off? Ivy, I need lots of long, thin stems. The stronger the better. The fairies were soon back with everything that Rowan had asked for, but they looked very puzzled. How can we make an adventure playground out of these? Ugron asked. Rowan said, We'll start by twisting the ivy stems together to make rope. You can help with that, Lucian, because it has to be kept tight, and you'll be good at pulling. She collected a small bundle of ivy, and Lucian held one end in his teeth while Rowan twisted and pulled. She soon had a splendid rope. Then she made the rope into a round hoop, just big enough for a little fairy. There, she said, we'll hang this from the roof, and they can practice flying through it. Willow said, Why don't we make a few more, and then it can be like an obstacle course? So that's what they did. Ugron reached up to fix the hoops to the roof so that they dangled down at different heights, and Willow flew up to take a look. She said, You know, this will be more than just fun. It will help the little ones to fly better. Then Rowan took one of Willow's bendy branches and pushed one end into the ground. I can't get this in far enough, she said. Ugron said, Let me try. He was very strong, and soon pushed the branch firmly so that it stood up like a rather wobbly flagpole. Rowan said, Our children can practice landing on this, just as though it was a branch on the bushes outside. Willow said, And if we set up lots of these poles, they can practice jumping and flying from one to another. We could even have races. Lucian said, If I stay on the ground and nudge the poles so that they sway about, the little ones could play dodging. Willow said, Good idea, Lucian. Even better if the children could take turns pushing the poles themselves. Rose and Holly asked, What about our prickly branches, Miss Rowan? Rowan said, We are going to make some pretend prickly bushes so that the little ones can learn how to get in and out quickly without getting stuck or hurting their wings. They arranged the branches till they looked just like rose bushes and holly bushes, but without any sharp prickles. Willow said, What a good idea! And now the children can take turns pretending to be a monster, and the others can learn how to escape. Ugron arranged some hay bales into a little maze, and piled some others up to make a pretend fort. Willow said, It could be a pretend ship, too, if they wanted to play pirates. Rowan looked carefully at the new adventure playground. She said, It certainly looks fun. I think we should ask if Mr. Magus could check it out for us, to make sure it's all safe. The wizard checked everything very carefully. Well done, he said. Everything is safe and secure. Much better than just using magic. But there is, I think, something missing. Rowan said, What's that, Mr. Magus? There ought to be some water. And would you object if I made a small stream, a paddling pool, perhaps even a little waterfall? Willow said, What a good idea, Mr. Magus. The little ones will enjoy splashing, and it will teach them how it feels when their wings get wet. So Mr. Magus waved his wand, and a small stream appeared, bubbling and gurgling over rounded pebbles as it flowed down a tiny waterfall into a large paddling pool. There you are, he said. Nothing to it. Not nearly as hard as all the wonderful work you've already done yourselves." Rowan said, "Can we invite the children in now?" Yes, of course." The fairy children loved their new playground. They ran and jumped and dived and splashed and flew and dodged and scrambled until they were all worn out. Willow said, "Ugron, that was a splendid idea of yours. The playground will help to keep the little ones safe, and they all love it. Well done." Lucian chuckled. "I think some of the grown-up fairies might like to play here, too."